Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Eastern Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self care and movies. If this is your first time tuning in, thanks for joining us. We are on episode 29. I'm Jay Watson.
And I'm Cathy Castle.
And tonight, Cathy and I are going to talk a little about the importance of self reflection and how important it is to kind of take stock not only in kind of your life and the logistical part of your life, but kind of take stock in how we're doing and how we're feeling and kind of keeping on top of that. But first of all, we're going to do a little check in between Kath and I and see what's been going on in this past week or so between the two of us. So, what's been going on, Cathy, with your world, with the castle, castle?
Castle. Yeah. So I, in my mind, got the Cool Mom Award this weekend because we impulsively decided to take a trip to Hershey Park Stadium to see Post Malone in he has a, if anybody follows his music, he is put out a country album, and my family likes all kinds of music, but we do like modern country. So we wanted to see this short limited, he's got a 2-month tour, and Post wasn't on my radar, but after he put out the country album that I really like, he was on my radar. So I was like, guys, you want to do this? And they were like, yeah. My husband, Marty, on the other hand, was not very happy with me because we left Easton Friday afternoon and it took 4.5 hours to get to Hershey. And that should have been 2.5, 3 hour drive. So he's like, we're not doing this again. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, you will.
Sure.
You'll probably do it next week.
I'll do it next week. But I think everybody and their grandmother and their grandmother's cousin was all coming in from, in my mind, like all these major arteries are coming down to like 2 lanes. And I'm like, hi. But anyway, there's a lot of people there in Hershey at that concert, and good concert. I mean, literally, we came in hot, and I think he started singing 10 minutes later. Of course, we were in the adults, me and Marty were in the bathroom when he came out, but the kids were there. And then, we didn't have time to do anything, eat, drink anything, nothing. We were just there. We saw it and we beat it. But I liked it. And I'll tell you, Jay, that I sent a text to you because, I had a lot of video content that I took from the show. And at one point, I was really surprised by this because I do know some facts about Post Malone. I know that he is 29. He says that Texas is his home, although I think he originally is from New York, and covered with tattoos, just covered. I think he's probably had some addiction and probably some mental health issues, and I'm guessing in the form of depression or anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I knew some of these things about him, but I was really taken back because there was a couple times in the concert he literally paused and was like, what is that light? There's light there. Is everybody okay? He's like, I need to know that everybody's okay there. Because you get all kinds of concerts.
Yeah.
People been hanging out people aren't like us, just coming in like really quick and doing our thing. There's people that's probably been hanging out all day.
Pre-gaming all day.
He was concerned about the crowd, and I thought, because I'm probably one of the oldest people there, I was impressed with that. And then at one point, he stopped and he just sent a message out to the universe and was like, "Listen." And here he is in all his tattoo glory and a shirt hanging open and scruffy face, got a grill. He's the whole thing of music. But he was like, "Listen, if anybody feels lost, lonely," he did probably, you could have bleeped out every 4th word with a cuss word, but he's like, people are there for you. People love you. People want you to be here. Reach out, talk to somebody, a neighbor, whatever. So I was so happy because, we all like to, especially on our podcast too, talk about self-worth and promote health and happiness. And certainly this is Suicide Prevention Month. So I was so glad to hear that message. And I thought to myself, and I did post a clip of it on Facebook, and I consulted with Jay because I'm one of those people that try to be very careful on social media because, one, I don't want to offend anybody. And I think adults bully way too much on social media, and we're supposed to be good models for our kids, and I am not seeing a lot of good role models, or I'm seeing examples of a lot of bad role models, especially in politics, and it's disappointing. But I did put it on and put some disclaimers about the curse words. But what I thought about was this. Jay, you and I love music just as much as we love movies.
Hmm.
And I think about change agents in the music industry. Some naturally come to mind. Beatles come to the States, it changed the landscape of music. Elvis came in at one point and probably changed the face of music. And then you get into some 80s icons, and oh gosh, there's soul icons. There's so many people that
Michael
have
Jackson.
so many people that have changed the landscape of music. We could probably do a whole podcast on that, of the influencers,
Yep.
right? But I think he's a modern day change agent. He's come in and he's done rap and pop and now country, but he has a big following of particularly younger people. And for him to stand up and give that message, all in, he looks a little bit of a hot mess, but in all of his glory there, stopping, he's so popular right now, but you stop to tell people I care about
Yeah.
you. And I don't know. I was just so proud of that and so happy. And I thought, man, this guy's he's coming around. He's got this figured out. And if he can, here I sit as middle class old white woman, but spreading suicide awareness and prevention. But if this guy can sit there at 29 and affect so many people, influence so many people, we've got to use every medium we can to tell
Yeah.
people they matter and listen. All you got to do is reach out to somebody. Somebody cares about you. So anyway, that's my soapbox
So
message today. I was really happy to see that.
let me ask you this, and as you're talking and saying how
Yeah.
he's got such a platform with young folks,
Hmm.
what did your boys take from that message? Did you guys talk about that at all? Like the specific message that post was talking about?
Yeah, well, I try to do that every chance I can, but they're probably sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing me talk like that. So I felt like with them, they were more in awe of, we've listened to this guy for a really long time. I have not listened to him for a really long time. But the kids are like, we have listened to him for a long time, and here he is in front of our face. So they were more
Yeah.
starstruck, I think.
Yeah.
They were less about the message and just like, wow, did we really just see him? And
Yeah.
that made me realize too how influential he is to the young people. So
Can be. Yeah.
and now, on social, when you look at something and then now that's all your feed is um, things like that. But I've seen where other people have taped him saying a similar message in other stadiums. So I don't know. I'm glad that some of these performers are taking time to pause and realize that these are very critical messages. I know you said Jelly Roll likes to.
Yeah. He's all about. And Jelly Roll did the at the Emmys 2 weeks ago. The in memoriam section where they show the people in the business that have passed in the
Yeah.
previous. Well, he sang that song, "Somebody Save Me."
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
sang that while they were showing the video, um, and he did a little. He talked for like a minute before, and he said something. Somebody's like, "Look, we all struggle, and reach out and let somebody know." He kind of did that for like a little 30-second thing before he started singing, and he's talked about that. He's been very open about his problems with
Struggles.
mental health. Yeah, so
But we got to realize as a society that there are so many people that they can say a song saved their life. Maybe it was a certain song, a certain performer, and that song meant so much to them that it literally turned their life around. I've heard that so many times.
yeah,
Even our friend Matt Reynolds will say that they're the guy from Lincoln Park, and I think that guy did
Chester Bennington, he took his own life. Yeah,
take his own life, but that he was Matt really thought of a lot of the music of him that really helped
yeah,
Matt. So lots of people have songs that mean a lot to them.
yeah. Um, I and look, maybe it's because we live in a social media world, but we seem to see, as much as I am one of the biggest complainers about all the bad stuff with social media, there seems to be also at the same time an awful lot of folks, public figures, whether they're actors or actresses or
Mhm.
musicians or whoever, that are seem to be more and more talking about their mental health struggles or um,
Yeah,
whatever they've been going through, and their advocacy. And sometimes I get a little cynical, Kathy, because I'm thinking, okay, was this their PR department saying, hey, everyone else is doing it, you need to do it? So it's not to say that it still can't be impactful, and because they all have such a gigantic following.
yeah.
Selena Gomez comes to mind. You know how
Oh
I
yeah,
feel
yeah, yeah.
because I mean
Mhm.
she started the whole Wonder Mind thing, and she's got the Rare Beauty Foundation, um, and she had she had a post. She was quoted in a speech the other day talking about how she came out and said that she, because of her health issues, she can't bear children, and she's got to use
Mhm.
other means.
Yeah.
And people reached out and had a backlash, like, why would you share all that? And she's like, this is me, and this is the real struggle of Selena Gomez. And she's like,
Be
you know,
nice about it. Let her.
yeah,
She's
she's like,
not hurting
man,
you.
but yeah, but anyway,
I don't know. And then I'm on my message here. Listen, if you don't, I mean, you're going back to the things you learned in kindergarten. If you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
don't say anything. Yeah,
Well, here's the thing. Or I feel like social media is like a billboard. So if you put it out there, you put it out there. So if you got something bad to say about somebody, say it to your friend. Don't like publicly put it out there. I just don't understand why people have to
yeah.
cut others down so much. It's so mean.
I
I'm
think people just want to be they just so want to be a part of the show that they just yeah.
I
I
don't
could
know.
go. I could go on for 10
I know.
podcast episodes about that whole social media thing. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, while you were at Hershey Park,
Hmm. I
having fun
know.
seeing Post Malone.
Well, I was having fun. You were
Well,
working.
I had no. Well, I wouldn't even call it work, Kathy. I actually had fun too, just in a different way. I was um, I had the wonderful opportunity to have a table at the Out of the Darkness um, walk for suicide prevention. That was
Hmm.
this past Saturday here in Easton at Ottawa Park. It was the first thing like that in this way that I've ever done. I've worked for businesses that have had tables at shows and stuff like that where I was presenting products and stuff like that, but
Right.
nothing in the mental health field at all. And I know you and I talked leading up to that and how I was having a little imposter syndrome about,
Hmm.
because I am not a professional in the field at all. So I was like, man, do I even belong there, and do I fit? And I had created these scenarios in my mind, like people are going to give me the side eye. And you and I talked, and I've talked to other people,
Hmm.
and everyone was like, "Don't worry." So and actually, I started feeling a little bit better as I got closer, and I thought it was going to be the opposite. And I was actually excited to go. I got there super early to kind of get the lay of the land, and
Of course you did.
that's just me anyway. Even if I was something that I knew about, was excited about, all that stuff, I was going to be. That's just my Jay's OCD.
I'd have made
So,
you nervous because I'd have rolled in on two wheels with papers flying.
well, yeah, a lot of the presenters, I'll call them the tablers, kind of did. They kind of got it there a little bit later, but I'm so glad I did because I was able to kind of walk around and
Mhm.
talk to the some of the other people that had tables there, and um, it was a good learning experience. It's just obviously the cause is super important, and um, something that not only Channel Marker but so many other agencies all across the country are kind of getting more on board with. But it kind of ties in, at least for the Eastern Shore Talk side of things, it ties in with the self care aspect of just
Sure.
taking care of ourselves, and trying to be on top of making sure that we're all well in our own way. And um, I just had a good time. I enjoyed myself. The anticipation of not fitting in was far worse than the actual event.
Hmm.
I enjoyed it, and like you and I were talking before we came on, I was like, when it was about time to take all my stuff down, I was like, man, it's done already. I kind of wanted to kind of keep going because I was just kind of getting the groove and getting kind of getting going. And but yeah, we've got another event coming up next month. That's pretty similar, similar topic. So looking forward to that one as well. But yeah, so everybody that was there at the event, we appreciate you showing up and walking for a good cause, and everyone that stopped by, and at least especially to my booth that asked questions. And um, some of the other presenters were very warm and welcoming. And the folks from China Marker, one of your coworkers, Kelly Holden, reached out to me. She said, "Cathy wanted me to check on you and make sure you were you're all right."
That I had to mother you even though I wasn't there.
I'm like,
Got busted.
but yeah, but I appreciated it. It was, because she was like, here's how kind of things go, and normally the crowd doesn't arrive till 10 o'clock, and so I appreciated the gesture, and it was helpful, and yeah, it was just a good all around event, and I enjoyed being there, and was glad to do my small little part, and um, hopefully can.
Well, thanks for doing that. Look,
No, no,
I have to plug a couple of resources then while you're talking.
yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So, just a reminder to anyone that's listening that September is a good self reflection month to, because that's our topic today, but to really think about suicide education and prevention. Such a critical topic to talk about. We all probably have been touched in some way by somebody has made the choice to take their life by their own hands. So whether it's, somebody in our neighborhood or a family member or a friend or somebody that we've read about or a sports figure, whatever, none of us sadly can escape being touched by the tragedy of suicide. So this is a good month of reflection to sit back, learn more about it. How can we help other people? How can we support survivors that are out there that are attached to a story of some sort, whether it was a parent that have lost their child or a spouse, however. So anyway, the sponsor behind the walk is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP. They have a really good website. I just want to say that. If you went on that website, it's a national website, and there's lots of good resources on it. Plus, they raise money for those walks, and I honestly didn't realize this, but I found out today, even though they have the walks like in September and October ish, right? They raise money until the end of December.
Hmm.
So if you miss something and you want to contribute to that cause, you still can. And the money really helps a lot with research. Research with why people are feeling this way and taking their lives by their own hands and how we can prevent that. So I really do like that entity, that organization. So that's a good one. And all of us have suicide prevention kind of materials on our website. I would even say Eastern Shore Talk does as well on our website,
Hmm.
because self-care helps us feel better about
Yeah.
ourselves and helps our mental health as well. Channel Market, the company I work for, we definitely have some resources about suicide prevention. We have some really good videos on our website too that we did in partnership with Kevin Hines and Midshore Behavioral Health. That's our local behavioral health authority. And Kevin has we have like, I don't know, it might be 7 videos with Kevin that are about an hour long. And Kevin speaks internationally, and he jumped the Golden Gate Bridge in the year 2000 when he was 19 and survived, thankfully. So Kevin's unique because he can give people an idea of what was going on in somebody's head, like
Yeah.
what makes someone think about this act,
Yeah.
this impulsive act. So I feel like you can learn a lot from people like that. And then Kevin, on our website, on channelmarker.org's website, the videos will like there's one that's tailored toward veterans, there's another toward first responders, one toward youth, general public, the aging population. There's a lot of different demographics there, because when we're talking about suicide, really we have to look at all the people that is affecting. It's not just one population. It's watermen, farmers, you name it. Construction workers. I just heard that there's high rates with construction workers. Who would know that a lot of these people are affected? So just educate yourself is what I'm saying, I guess, for particularly this month. Anytime you can
Yeah.
educate yourself, but this is a good self-reflection month, I guess.
Yeah. It's funny when I was trying to come up with a topic for this week,
Mm-hmm.
Cathy. What got me thinking about this was as is usual, my mind starts in one place and ends up going in a different direction. But
Yeah,
sometimes that different direction, a light bulb goes off, and we all know how we are when we're, maybe there's a friend that we haven't seen for a while, or a family member that we haven't spoken with, or whatever for a while. And we always say, "So how you doing? How you been?" And kind of that generic kind of go-to answer for most of us is, "Hey, I'm doing
fine,
good."
fine.
Even if we're not really doing fine, and I'm just like, and our friend Matt Reynolds kind of talks about that a little bit. That whole, I think he talks about his dad for years. He would say, "Hey, Dad, how you doing?" And his dad would say, "Good." That was his answer, no matter what. And I think most of us at times are guilty of that. We don't. We may be feeling a certain way, but we for a million different reasons, we always just kind of say, "I'm good. I'm doing good," or doing well, or whatever.
Well, because it's almost like a greeting. I feel like it's like a greeting.
Yeah,
If I say Jay, how you doing? It's kind of like Jay, hi
right.
Jay. It's
It's a
but
it's a
we've
courtesy. Yeah,
turned that into a greeting, and then we've learned to respond to that instead of saying yeah, hi back. We're saying good. I'm fine. Because
yeah,
you're not gonna be like, do I get into this? Oh, my
right.
cat ran away. I had a
But
flat
that,
tire. You know, you just
yeah,
don't go into the long thing.
but that whole idea of how so many of us are guilty of not expressing, especially when we're struggling, not
Yeah.
expressing that to whomever. What in a safe place, we hold it in, and that kind of my thought process went off on a tangent and was like, okay, we all right. Do we ask ourselves how we're doing? Do we look in the mirror and say,
Mhm.
how am I doing? And that kind of led me to this whole self reflection, because I think and for me it's super important that we're constantly taking stock in how we ourselves are doing, um, because it was for me, and I've told this story many times on the podcast and in the group. The turning point for me was when I, for the very first time, took stock of Jay and said, "Man, what do I need to change? What do I have to do different so that I'm not making these same choices?" So to kind of to realize where we need to go, we have to understand why and where we've been that didn't work, and to do that, we have to look inward. And it doesn't have to be like in my case, like this big, huge, life changing pivotal point. It can be, and sometimes for those of us who have had specific types of struggles, especially when we were younger, there hopefully there is a big pivotal point. But to me, even if we're generally speaking, we're doing pretty well, I think it's important to keep looking in the mirror and saying, okay, am I still doing okay? What do I need to work on? Because I don't think we're ever a finished product. I think because our life is kind of an accumulation of our experiences, and we grow and evolve. So what we may need to be healthy at 57, it was probably not the same thing as at 30, and probably at 70 it's not going to be the same thing as it is at 57. So
I'm still 56, just saying.
okay, well, whatever. 50 blah blah blah.
For a minute, I am counting the
For
minutes.
a month or so, or 2 months or so, whatever.
Yeah.
um, so I just think it's really important to, whether you're struggling, whether you're not struggling, to constantly be taking stock of how we are doing in all mind, body, and soul, in all aspects of life. All aspects of life. I think we're all pretty good at, and I'll just use career as an example. We're all pretty good at understanding. Okay, I'm not necessarily particularly happy in the career path I'm going towards, so we pivot, we go in a different direction, or you know, we go back to school and learn more or do whatever. But when it comes to our general self wellness, we tend not to give as much attention to the overall general wellness of us as we do, as an example, with our career path, just to use one kind of aspect of life. Um, so yeah, that's why I thought we would kind of jump into the whole self reflection, the importance of self reflection tonight.
I am a big fan of this topic. I think that it is a practice. I think that it's part of a much bigger conversation. We could have a whole series about it. I feel like self reflection is related. It to so many things, to communication, to our behavior, to our health, our mental health. And it's I don't know that it really comes natural or when you pick up the self reflection thing. And I was, I'm always good at my articles or whatever, how I like to do that. But I was reading this one article, and talking about self reflection as a healthy practice, right? But it can become harmful if we're ruminating on things, having self criticism, self judgment, negative self talk, and comparing ourselves to others. Marty always like to say, he says, comparison is a thief of all joy. I love that statement, by the way. So I'm sitting here thinking as we're talking, how many people live their life every day like this? They're working really hard because, I mean, let's face it, life is kind of hard these days, right? Things are expensive. Some people have two jobs. Some people are single parents. Some people are caring for aging parents, whatever the scenario is. Maybe they live in a neighborhood that's not safe. People have all kinds of different things going on. So that in itself is stressful, right? That's a lot. Um, so if you're just in the hamster wheel every day and every day is, did we make this up or did somebody say this, that 90% of what we do is the same the next day?
I got it from Matt Runnels,
Got it from Matt. Okay.
and
So
actually, Ann talks about it on
oh,
her
that's
thing
right.
too. Yeah.
That's right. So anyway, if our days are routine, day after day after day, and we're repeating the same cycles of whatever, but how many people are busy, like I just explained? Maybe you might be critical of other people, right? Saying, oh, this person gets on my nerves. Drivers suck. Nobody can drive. My coworkers are horrible. I mean, that negativity piece, right? And then how that same person also having negative self talk. I'm not good at anything. I'm a horrible, criticizing yourself, your decisions, what you've done, comparing what you don't have to somebody else. So if you pile up all those things, and I bet you there's a lot of people that find themselves in some of that, if not all of that. Here I am doing the same old in the same old rut every day with tons of things on my plate. Plus I'm irritated with people or society around me. Plus I'm giving myself self I'm criticizing myself. Then how in the heck can that person be happy and healthy? And I would argue that one of the ways out of that is self-reflection. And that's work. And how are you going to do that work? First, you got to carve out time. Now we're starting to get back into the self-care lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would argue that self-reflection is a form of self-care. But you gotta make time for it. What is it? Is it can I squeeze some of this in at night? Like, can I get away from everybody, an hour, a half an hour before I go to bed? Or can I get up before other people if you have a busy house like me? Or could you go into a bench near water somewhere and kind of think whatever people know what helps them have some deep work or thinking time. And some people do it through meditation, and whatever it takes. But you need time to think, okay, am I happy? What is missing? What do I want to change? What negative stuff am I telling myself? What's a story that I've made up? It starts with looking inward and just reflecting on what's going on. I mean, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. But like benefits of self reflection, I'm going to read that. It increases our self-awareness of ourselves. Like, how do we, and Jay, you do this, you've done this a lot in your life. If you publicly say, if you had a failed relationship, you've sat back and said, which part of it was me? What did I need to change?
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing to do, to look inward and say, maybe I was a little crabby. Or I'm not saying you're crabby. Like, maybe my
A
interaction with
little.
my kids, I was a little crabby or whatever. Or maybe I'm hungry. When I'm hungry, I'm a grouch. What is it that you need? What information do you need to know about yourself? Um, Self reflection can give you a greater sense of control, improve communication skills, have a deeper alignment with what your values are, help you make better decisions, greater accountability. Like, and I think that you really need to do some, what are your values? I think when you're self reflecting, what's important to me, is like for me, I know that family is very important to me. That's a big value of mine. Um, Creativity, cooking, nature, whatever. What are you in line with? What are your values? Faith. You have to really spend some time with yourself to say what's important and what motivates you. And if you don't have what you need to be happy, then you got to start somewhere. Take an evaluation of yourself, a self-assessment, reflect on it. What can you do different? It's a lot of work, but it is a practice. This isn't just like today I'm going to self reflect and tomorrow I'm going to be a better person. And
Yeah.
I've said this a lot because I love this statement that if you really look at science, our brain is like Velcro, and I mean sticky, like a magnet to negativity. Our brain, our fight or flight is ready. It's ready. It's ready for that tiger to come out and get us. It is ready to be negative to protect us, right? But it is like Teflon, meaning it slides off to positivity. So when we've got our brain in this really wacky negative mindset that, maybe you're saying you've made up terrible stories about yourself and how everybody thinks about you, then we've got to rewire that with positivity and gratitude. But you gotta sit with yourself and have some time to say, what the heck is going on before you can change it.
So yeah, a lot of what you're saying. It's funny. I don't normally jot down notes, but it was so much as you were talking. I was like, oh yeah, I want to talk about this. Oh yeah, I want to talk about this because a lot of what you were saying, this is so self care friendly. The whole self reflection, and I like the fact that you said it's a part of self care, and it just fits so much into that progression of self that I talk about. Self love becomes self care, becomes strong sense of self, becomes healthier choices,
Yeah.
becomes hopefully so that self reflection is as we're doing self care, we are. I think self reflection, self care are kind of partners. Hopefully, as we're working on ourselves consistently, we're understanding. Okay, this thing that I'm doing is working. Maybe this other one is not working so much. So
Mhm.
we're figuring out our path to become the better self, the better us. Um, but the part of that strong sense of self that self reflection hopefully leads us towards, to me, it's just not a it's just not about being secure enough to make healthier choices. It's also about self reflection helps us to find who we are, to figure out, like you said, what are my values,
Mhm.
um,
But how
like
many people
what.
can say that?
Yeah,
That they
it's
know
not, and just a step further than that, Kathy. It's not because I think generally speaking, a lot of us have the same values as far as morals and priorities, things like that. They may vary here and there, um, but it's also like who are we at our core? We if we don't work on ourselves, we don't take the time within the process to get to know who we are and find out. You know, there are folks that are our age, Kathy, that have
Yeah.
no idea who they are. There are
You're
folks that are half our age that have a pretty good idea of who they are. Um, because if we don't, and that kind of ties into that. It's all this self reflection, like you said, is it's such a it ties into everything. It's such a
yeah.
it ties into that internal versus external thing that I talked about, and it should be about our priorities should be inside out, not being so caught up in the what's going on out there, the external, and chasing that external fix to make us happy that we don't have any control over, that we've talked about a million times. Um, but if you don't know who you are inside, you're likely to try to seek it from an external source, whether that's relationships like it was with me, or a
Yeah.
substance, or
Hmm.
gambling, or food, or any number of external things that people kind
Yes.
of turn
Yeah.
to to try to fix that internal thing that they're missing. But if you don't take the time to reflect on yourself and know where you're lacking in your life, mind, body, and soul, you can't fix what you don't know. You don't know what direction you want to go in until you figure out what the source is. Um, and it's not always easy, like you said. It's people don't want to, especially those of us who have gone through a trauma, particularly childhood trauma.
Yeah.
The last thing we want to do is the last thing we want to do is sit with that thing in order to find what direction gets us away from that
Yeah.
junk.
It's
But
uncomfortable.
it's the it's the most necessary part. You you have to, whether you have struggled or are struggling, or whether your life is relatively going well at the time, you still should be in touch with you.
Yeah.
You know, finding out the things as we evolve and grow. Like I said, because 5 years from now, our needs are going to change, our wants are going to
Mhm.
change, and if we don't know where we're going, we don't know where to find those things that make us truly happy internally. We have no shot, but we have to take the time to get to know who we are and assess the position we're in internal health wise, if that makes sense.
You know, this article has some good questions too about self-reflecting. And I want to say this too. It also says that if we're struggling, right, and we've got a negative thoughts, our minds racing, we have major events, major emotions, we've got to talk about it. Now, of course, there are people that have therapists or go to therapy, and that's great. But if you're not that person, like that's not what you want to do, that's not what you're doing, then you need to find somebody to talk to. There's got to be somebody that you can find, because if you can process those things, and I know some people don't like to talk, but if you just get it out, like your story, say it, get it out. I mean,
Yeah,
it could be that you've had the worst day ever. Just talk to somebody and get it out. Process that stuff, right? Because you're going to feel better. But talking about self reflection, I like these questions. Ask yourself open ended questions. Start off by asking yourself things like this: am I doing what makes me happy? Are there things I'd like to improve about myself? What could I have done differently today? Am I taking anything or anyone for granted? So, there's just some questions that this article in particular suggests when you're looking inward at yourself.
yeah. I like what you said, and we've kind of stressed this before about if you're feeling some kind of way, get it out, express it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like we talked earlier in the episode about how I felt a little imposter syndrome with going to the event this weekend. And look, in the grand scheme of my life and in the grand scheme of the world, me being uncomfortable about going to that event is was tiny, is minor.
But it was
However,
but it was important to you. It was something. It was a
yes.
story you told yourself.
However, just the act of me talking to you about it or talking to whomever,
Mhm.
getting the words out there, just that act, regardless of the input that I got from you guys, which was all helpful, by the way, it was just saying the words, release the pressure. It took the weight off of me. Did it mean that it instantly went away by saying it? No, but it just like for me, I know when I was did therapy a long time ago, and I remember one of the few things that stuck with me with one therapist that I talked to. He said, because of my anger towards my
Yeah.
parents at the time, he said,
Mhm.
write your parents a letter. He said, you don't even
Journal.
have to give it to them. You don't even have to tell them. Just write it. And he was right. It was literally just the act of writing the words
Yeah.
on a paper made a difference.
There's science behind that too. I've read articles on that. Putting something on paper, writing it,
Yes.
handwriting it.
Which brings me to the other thing I jotted down when you were talking earlier. Although I'm not a big person for this, I absolutely see the value in it, is journaling, because
Yeah.
as part of self reflection and taking stock of where you are in your life, mind, body, and soul, your journal is your record of that. You can Do something as simple as give yourself a number for that day, like Matt Reynolds talks about. What's my number today? He talks about when him and his partner want to talk, have something to talk about. They ask each other, well, what do you on a scale of 1 to 10 today? And if one of them says, I'm only a 3, well, then they say, well, let's wait till later, till our numbers are more aligned to talk about this. So it can be as simple as saying, today I'm a 5. Okay, well, here's why I'm a 5. Maybe there's another day you're a 9, and write down why. And it could be the record of, okay, I, I did these things that got me to a 9. These certain things happened and brought me to a 5. Well, now we know, just like if you're an athlete and you playing baseball and you're going through a slump, and you go back into the clubhouse and you watch tape about what your swing looks like. If you can see what you're doing wrong with your swing, now you can address it and try to fix it. If we don't know where those areas are in our life that we're not so happy, we have no chance of trying to make those parts of our life better. If we don't, if we don't take stock of what those things are, and journaling is great. It's a great record keeper. It's right there in black and white. You can refer to it, and you can see what has been working, and kind of head in that direction more often as well.
I think sometimes people have a misconception about journaling. It's like
Yes.
it doesn't need to be some big book that you're just writing for days and you don't feel like writing. It could be bullet points, it could be pictures, it could
Yep.
be like the way I've used journaling is sometimes I get on a gratitude kick where I'm like, I'm gonna write all this down, and I still do my daily win. I'm not writing journals and journal pages of gratitude, although I probably should. I at least do a daily win, which is a gratitude thing. Write down what's your daily win of each day, but you could sometimes I make a gratitude focus. Other times I use it to work something out. Like maybe I'm worked up and it's 11:30 at night, and I don't have anybody to spit it out to at that moment. Then I'll go to paper and put it out. What is the story I'm telling myself about myself? And usually when I'm like that, I'm negative. I've gotten on the negative train. Or what do I think other people are thinking about me? And then I have to really pull myself out of that. But putting it down, even if I leave it and come back to it in 24 hours, I'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel that way in 24 hours. And then I'm like, goodness, what kind of mindset was I in at that moment? But getting it out of here and putting it down can help me at times when you don't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah. I just think it's just a good. I mean, look, I'm a little biased because it was my turning point.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's important for all of us, whether we're in the middle of a struggle or not, just to kind of, as a partner, like we said, as a partner with self care, to see where we are, see how we're really feeling. Ask yourself, Jay, how am I feeling today? How are you feeling, Jay, today? And be honest. Honest enough to say, well, X, Y, and Z part of my life is pretty good, but A, B, and C needs a little bit of work. Okay, now we know where to kind of shift some attention. X, Y, and Z is kind of good. Let's work on A, B, and C.
It's the
And
wellness wheel. It's the wellness wheel.
yep, or in my case, the progression of self. It all kind of and um, look, it takes time, and like Cathy said, it's a practice. There has to be consistency. It just it's it's cumulative. The more consistent you work on it, it can't that all that positive stuff piles up. It doesn't mean things are never gonna go wrong. It doesn't mean that you still won't struggle, but you have that tool in the toolbox, to kind of fall back on and say, okay, this is what got me through the last struggle I was in. Let's really concentrate on the self care and evaluate yourself, and constant to be looking in the mirror and saying, you know, were these choices good or bad? And whether you write them down in a notebook or whether you do them on your phone, um, journal it. Make a record, and it'll kind of help you. It'll be a study guide. Okay, I can tell where this part was pretty good. So let's take some time to work on the A, B, and C that's not working.
What are you missing? What's out of whack?
Yeah, and like you said, ask yourself the question: Am I happy? And I mean, when we say that, at least for me, speaking for myself, I mean internally. Is my being, is my own self wellness. How the hell is that doing? Not how
Are
am I
you
being
content?
perceived?
Yeah.
Yeah, not how am I being perceived? Not how am I presenting myself to the world? How am I doing inside where it really matters?
Yep.
Take stock in that and be consistent with that.
Yeah, and I think if you're somebody who's feels like the world's always against you and that you can never win, you probably need to sit down and do a little self work because there's some people with some pretty crappy life situations out there that are still able to be positive and self reflect, right? Um, I've seen some
Yeah,
people with some, you know, wild medical diagnosis that I'm like, how in the heck are they that happy and whatever? But they've figured out, look, life is time is such a precious thing
yeah.
and you've got to make good use of it. So if I'm miserable, what can I change? I can't change these factors, but I can change how I respond or my behavior, my
I
outlook.
yeah. My opinion is this, Catherine. Here's my viewpoint on that. I tend to think that not everyone, but most people are aware to at least to some degree that they're struggling in some way. Most people, most of the
Yeah.
time, and that category of people, like I said earlier, is they just may not have enough awareness and insight to know which direction to go, and that's fair. But I also think there's a segment of that group of people that, like I said earlier, is just they know how bad it is, and they've pushed it under the rug for so long and pushed it under there so deep. They don't want to have to dredge it back up to deal with it because that's what that and but that's and as horrifying as that may sound, it's so necessary because if you're not familiar with it and you're not familiar with why it's affecting your life the way it is, you're gonna have a really difficult
Set it
time.
free, right?
Yeah, yes,
Set the
yeah.
problems free.
It's the most difficult step, but it's the most important step. Getting those words out there. I'm telling you, getting the words out there is the beginning of what was probably going to be a long process, but it's the beginning of heading in a better direction because now it's out there. Whether even if you just told one person, you no longer have to wonder, oh, what are people going to think if I say these words out loud? Whatever
Yeah.
it is, because now you've done it. And 99.9% of the time, when you tell that person, they're not going to judge you. They're not going to give you a side eye because you've probably picked someone
Yeah.
that you can try. If you've held it in that deep and protected it that much, you've probably picked someone that you're almost certain is not going to do that to you anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, take stock in yourself, self reflect, become familiar with both the good parts that you're doing well and celebrate those and take pride in those. But then, like all of us, because we all have the things we do well in life, but we all have the things we need to work on. Find out what those things you have to work on. Find out what they are, and if you're not sure about how to address those things, go online or ask people that maybe are in deal with that kind of thing. But first thing you got to do is just take stock of how you're really doing, like how you're really doing internally, and then kind of to go from there.
Here, let me read one more thing. This
Yep.
is what to do if self reflection makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You may avoid self reflection if it brings up difficult emotions and makes you feel uncomfortable. So, the recommendation is prepare yourself to get comfortable with the uncomfortable before you start. So, that's kind of a weird statement, right?
Yeah.
But maybe that
But you
was you.
have
That's
to.
what you did before the tabling.
Yep.
You
Yep.
prepared yourself to be uncomfortable or comfortable with the uncomfortable, and it wasn't
Yep.
as bad as you thought.
Yep.
So, then think of your time in self reflection as a safe place within yourself. Avoid judging yourself while you explore your thoughts, feelings, and your motivation for your behavior. Notice what comes up and accept it. Instead of focusing on this is what I'm fearful, this is what I worry about, these are my regrets, look for areas of growth and improvement. So practice neutrality and self compassion so that self reflection then becomes a positive experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I love when you said that self reflection is kind of is a part of self care because
Mhm.
they're kind of like they're kind of partners. They're kind of like teammates along the journey
Our
of,
teammates.
of making our inner self better.
And who knows
And
yourself better than yourself? Right?
yes, but I think sometimes we don't really know ourselves because we identify with the things that are unhealthy. That's not really who we are. You know what I'm saying? At least,
True.
least, least that's been my experience anyway. Um, yeah. So speaking of self care, let's
Mm,
kind of flip over to some
yeah.
what we've been watching lately. And um, so you kind of did the Post Malone concert, so that was kind of one thing. Um, I want to talk real quick. We're going to talk about The Voice because we both watched The Voice last night, but I want to talk about a very odd movie going experience I had this past Friday. I went and saw or attempted to watch the movie Speak No Evil with James McAvoy. And I'm a big James McAvoy fan. He did a movie a while back called Split where he played somebody with multiple personality
Listen,
disorder.
that movie freaked me out. I didn't like that movie.
Now, it was okay. His performance as an actor, I thought, was fantastic. To play multiple characters within one human person, like that's so. I kind of watched. I wanted to watch it for that. And Kathy, I probably watched half the movie, and it's for those of you who don't may not know, it's a psychological thriller. Um, it's kind of got an M. Night Shyamalan kind of vibe and feel to it, but I don't know who the director was, but it wasn't him. Um, but as I'm watching this, I'm like, I found myself getting uncomfortable, and like not because it was scary or not because I was worried about those startle moments that I get so frustrated with the movies, but I was my anxiety got triggered a little bit, and I was like covering my. I was doing like the kid in the theater when they don't want to watch the scary ghost movie or whatever. I was literally covering my eyes and turning away, and I walked out to the bathroom when I didn't really have to go to the bathroom, and I was just like, man. And I started talking to myself. I'm like, I'm uncomfortable with this. Like, and I don't know how to explain it other than the way that the characters were interacting was, and there wasn't really any violence. It was so psychological. It was all psychological, and I was like, it like I couldn't do it, Kathy. I'm like, no, I just it. I just I don't
Was
know.
it a
How
good
to,
movie?
I'm just like, this is not how people should be to other people. It's just not. Like I said, there was no physical violence, no
Yeah.
nothing like that. It was just like these mind games. And I'm like, I am not liking this
And
part
you
of
did,
this.
you know what though? But if entertainment then begins to stress you out like that, then don't you shouldn't watch it. I
Yeah,
mean,
so I watched about half the movie and I left, and I was like, no sooner than I walk out to my car, I could just I felt better. Um, and look, I'm not saying by any means don't see the movie. Some people, most people probably would not be bothered in the same way I was by this movie. That was just a Jay Watson thing. Um, I am a fan of his. It was a little slow at the very beginning. I'm like, where's this going? And then as it kind of got to the meat of the psychological thriller part, and I've watched other psychological
I
thrillers, and
probably
they
wouldn't
didn't
like that.
they didn't bother me like this. There was just something about
I don't want to be stressed out in a movie.
and as I'm thinking about it, maybe he was such a good actor that his character was just in a mind in a headspace that was just like, man, I couldn't do it. And I know it's fiction and it's just on a screen,
But
but I'm
still,
just like I'm like nope. And I wasn't frightened for my own like it wasn't
yeah.
like I was a kid in a horror movie. It just like I'm like no, I don't want anything to do with this fictional portrayal of this stuff. So I'm like I'm out. So I
Yeah.
left. Um, it was all good. I was fine literally by the time I walked out to my car. I was like, okay, I can relax now. But yeah, I've been watching my regular Only Murders in the Building, which is so good.
Still haven't started. I
Tell Me
will.
Lies. They just got Only Murders in the Building just got picked up for season 5. The
Oh
new
wow.
season 4, they just got picked up for season 5, and it's so good. Cast is so good. Tell Me Lies, which I hear everybody on social media talk about it.
They like it.
Talk about a villain of all villains, and talk about a psychological villain. This guy, and this guy doesn't weird me out like the movie did at all. But like he's right up there in my top 5 most despised villains of anything I've ever watched in my entire life, and
That sounds stressful.
it's all like narcissistic manipulation, that kind of thing. Um, and then, of course, Thursday nights is the Rings of Power, which is kind of the prequel to the Lord of the Rings, which it's good too. But you and I both watched last night, and I made a point to text you yesterday and say, "Hey,
Yeah, I'm glad you
the
did.
season premiere of The Voices starts tonight," because I know we're both American Idol fans as well. So,
Yes, we are.
um, and it was such a great episode. It was a really good season premiere. Lots of very emotional moments. Uh, Snoop Dogg and Michael Bublé have joined the judges panel, and they joined Gwen Stefani, who's done it several times, and Reba McEntire, who's this is her second season doing it, and she won last year. And just they they
They
they,
were
they,
good.
they cover the bases because they got somebody kind of from each genre, and they kind of got people from different age groups on the panel. But the chemistry between the four of them is so
Oh yeah.
good. The performances were
Yes.
good. It was just really,
You
really, really good.
after what happened in my house is I got all set up and then the football game entered our life and I was like, darn it. So I was like, fine. And then I just didn't watch. And then I went upstairs eventually and finished watching it.
Yeah,
But that's part of my relationship with The Voice. I go in and out of that show for some reason. But anyway, I love the chemistry of those guys. And then I got on The Voice Facebook page,
yeah.
and did they all sing? They sang. Did they sing that Eagles song at the beginning?
No, that
Was
they
that a
just
different day? Was it a
it,
promo?
it it's just a promo. Yeah,
Gosh, it was so good. And I'm like, oh, I love Snoop. Oh, I love Michael Bublé. I didn't even know I love. Oh, well, we knew from the Olympics that Snoop was coming back into our life, and we are
yeah,
like, Snoop is what we needed. And now he's on
yeah,
The Voice. We're like, Snoop is definitely what we needed.
yeah.
But
He's
then
just such
Bublé,
a
you gotta love
yeah,
Bublé. I think he's such
yeah.
a
That's just
good guy.
yeah.
They were good.
And they normally will save the best what they feel like the best performances for last, and they did. There was this 15-year-old girl who was the very last one on last night's episode.
Gosh, yeah.
15 years old and um, just so good. Of course, all four chairs turned around. She had a four-chair turn. Um,
Made
yeah,
Snoop
she
cry.
made Snoop cry. Yeah,
He cried a
and
lot.
and but didn't she pick Snoop or did she pick Michael Bublé? I can't remember.
She, I don't think she picked Snoop. I don't remember who she picked.
I can't either.
Or did she
But
pick? Maybe she did pick Snoop. She might
um,
have. Well, she might have because wasn't she with like sisters and a mom, and they wanted Michael to turn around.
yeah,
Instead, she might have picked Snoop. I think she did pick
it
him.
was either Michael. Or, I can't
She
remember. It was either
mentioned.
Michael or Snoop. Yeah.
I think she picked
If you're listening to this, let us know because
because
that's
I
how.
think he said I wanted a young person to be able to mentor. Wasn't that her?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my
um,
gosh, did
yeah.
they?
It
They
was
were so good.
such a good episode. It's a I look. I get a little frustrated with these singing shows to some degree because they don't do it as much on The Voice as they do in Idol, where they'll pick certain contestants and they'll give you the backstory.
Yeah,
And I, I I'm kind of a competition guy at heart. I want the best competitor to win,
not the best
and
story.
I think last year Reba's singer was not the best singer. They won because Reba was the coach. People were voting for Reba basically, not the contestant.
Mm,
So I worry, and Blake Shelton was the same way when he was on there. He won so many times because everybody loves Blake Shelton. So they voted for whoever he was coaching. Um, the Idol doesn't do that. The coaches are not affiliated with any of the contestants, but they promote the story much more on Idol. And I
yeah,
get a little now sometimes like with Ian Tongi, the story and the best singer align.
yeah,
That's great. So I do like the premise of The Voice where they've got their back turned, so they're not watching
yeah,
them at first, and
yeah,
they press their button and they turn around if they pick them. Um, and this year they have a new thing called the replay, where if they're each coach can do it one time during the season, and so if there's a contestant that maybe nobody turned around for, and you'll see this like later on when maybe one of the judges only has one spot left on their team because they can only pick so many people. and maybe they're trying to save it, so they may let somebody go through thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna wait." Well,
Yeah.
now they've got something called the replay, where if nobody picked you, each judge can do it one time. Like last night, Reba, there was this country guy that came on, and he's saying, "I thought he was pretty good. I'm not a big country fan, but I thought he was pretty good." And nobody picked him. So they were all like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And Snoop said, "I didn't pick you because I thought Reba was going to
Yeah.
pick you, and I would have had no chance going against Reba," which makes sense. And I believe him. And Reba said, I'm trying to understand why I didn't pick you. And then she hit a
Yeah.
replay button. And you could tell he went from, he felt defeated because this is his dream to be a singer. And he felt defeated because nobody turned around. And now she hits the replay button. And like Snoop Dogg is crying again.
I was
And
crying.
and Gwen was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so amazing!" And you know,
Yeah.
and I like how they each judge has like a little prize they give to their
Yeah.
contestant. And Snoop's
And
giving
in
away a
their,
neck.
effects, like Buble had
Yeah,
the smoke or whatever,
yeah.
and Snoop
Um,
is just clever, man. He can rhyme it up. I'm like, what the
he has a
heck?
new rhyme for every contestant.
Where'd you pull that out of?
Snoop gives a necklace away. Gwen does like a jersey, like some
Well,
kind of
she had
clothing.
a kitten. She had a kitten.
Oh, she named the kitten
Like,
after
oh,
Sydney.
that's
Yeah,
Sydney.
and
Wait,
then
so did she? Was that who we were talking about? Was that the 15-year-old?
yeah, I think it might have been Gwen. I think she might have
Maybe it
picked
was
Gwen.
one. We were wrong all around.
She
Gosh.
picked one of those four judges.
Yeah, one of the dang judges.
And Reba gives away. Last year it was tater tots.
Oh,
Last year
tater
she.
tot.
This
Yeah,
year
that's the
it's
chicken.
this little. She's doing giving away this little Reba McEntire like bobblehead thing. So it's pretty
I
cool.
thought Snoop took off his necklace, but he had a different necklace.
Yeah, but he's giving away a necklace to every contestant. That's every judge, every person that picks him. That's pretty cool.
How about
But
when he threw the flag and said illegal use of an animal when she got the
yeah,
kid?
Snoop is just.
He's
I
funny.
just he's funny, but he's such a positive person, man. He's always like hyping people up and giving everybody the flowers and just he's just a good
Have
dude.
you went on the Voices Facebook page and saw like their little reels of interviewing each other?
Yes,
Because they're good. They're
yeah,
good.
that's
Saying
why
yeah,
who they're like when they met their their
influence them and
their
stuff.
idol. Yep, I saw
Yeah,
that. Yep,
that's
uh,
some good stuff,
yeah,
'cause they all had humble beginnings.
yeah. Michael Bublé said that his grandfather was giving away free something in order to get him in studio time to sing somewhere. Like he started from scratch.
And I'd forgotten that he had walked away for a little while because of his son, right?
Yeah,
Had
his son passed. Yeah,
did he pass?
yes, yep,
Wow. I wasn't thinking that, but I knew he
yeah.
was really sick.
But there was a part in the show where this guy came out and you could tell he had the Michael Bublé style and that kind of song, and he sang and nobody turned around. And Michael said, he's like, "Why did you pick that song?" And he told him, he's like, "Why don't I come up there and sing it with you?" So he went up on the
I
stage
missed that. I didn't see that.
and sang the song with the dude, and you could tell just by him singing with him, he was better. And that's every one of them will do that at some point during the season. Each judge will get up
Now,
there.
so nobody picked him though?
Nobody picked him.
Oh wow.
He was good. He wasn't great,
Did they
and
tell
he
him to
has.
come back?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
there was a couple that they didn't pick, and you can tell there have been a few contestants where it's taken two or three times, and maybe they were like really really young, and maybe they
Yeah.
just got better and they got mature, and came back. There's one girl, I want to see, it was either last year or 2 seasons ago, did not make it the first time, and she might have not even made it the first couple times. Well, she came back and ended up going pretty far because she'd gotten so much better. Um, but yeah, they
Well, and you and I talked about that Morgan Wallen had been on the show but had never got picked.
yeah
Or what, right? No, I didn't mean
yeah
that. He didn't win, is what
he
I
didn't
meant.
win. Yeah,
What I don't know what he came in.
I don't either. I forgot that he was on the show, so I don't remember where. And you'll see sometimes, Kathy, there'll be crossovers where
Oh, really?
maybe they went on the Idol because there was a girl
Really?
last 2 seasons ago, Mara Justine. I was like, man, she looks familiar. So I looked her up, and
Oh,
she'd been on Idol
okay.
before and got to like the final 24 or something. She came on there and got down to like the last five or something.
Gosh, they're lucky to have exposure to so many people, right?
And think about this: Maren Morris. You know who Maren Morris is, the
Yeah.
country singer. She tried out for one of those shows and didn't even get past the tryout stage where you try out to get to go on to the show to find out if you're good enough.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a group of producers or whoever for the show that you sing in front of first, and they say, okay, you're good enough for the show. Now come on to the show and try out. She didn't even get past that.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, good show. So any of you voice fans out there, you know what we're talking about. And
Check it out.
yeah, normally sometimes they'll do back to back nights, but they're
Oh
not
yeah.
doing another episode tonight because they'll do like a 2 hour episode one night and then like an hour the next night. But it's not on tonight. At least I didn't see it.
I didn't see, I thought they said that the next one was Monday, next Monday.
Yeah, but I did. There's another show. I want to say it might start this Wednesday. The Masked Singer.
Oh yeah, you like
I
that.
love me some because Kathy, there are actually celebrities that come on there. They've got this costume on that sing, and of course you get eliminated if you're not very good. That people vote whatever. And there have been so many celebrities that I'm like, man, that person's good. Like Nikki Glazer, the comedian,
Yeah.
she could sing. Of course, there are some singers. Chris Daughtry's been on there. Neo's been on there. Leanne Rhymes has been on there. Um, Pentatonics was on there. They were I don't know how they didn't win. They were freaking amazing. But there's always one or two people every season that you're like, man. And they're a celebrity that you never knew could sing. That they really can sing.
It is surprising
Yeah,
how many
and
people can
I
sing.
like that because when I watch animated movies, I always
Yeah.
try to think. I always try to figure out who the voices are, like what
Yeah.
celebrities. So that kind of goes to that. I'm like, because they'll give you clues and they'll talk each week. They'll give you another clue, and you try to put the pieces of the clues together. I don't ever look at the clues. I always go by the voice. And
I'd be
maybe
hot, man. I'd have to throw that head off because
well they do that too. So there's been a
you know
couple
that
that have
gets
done
hot.
that, but
I'd be like, I gotta stop.
that's I love that show too because it's a different thing. It's super successful. It does so well. Um,
Yeah,
they've got good judges.
definitely give it a try.
Rita Ora just joined. It's Rita Ora, um, Jenny McCarthy,
Mm.
um, Thick, Robin Thicke, and
Mhm.
Ken Jeong is the
Oh,
comedy. But he's good and he knows music. So, but Nicole Scherzinger was there for years and years, and but Rita Ora took her place last year. But she was good too. And of course, Nick Cannon, he's the producer of the show. He's the host.
okay.
Um, so yeah, it's
Hmm.
there have been some amazing performances. Pentatonics last year was good. Leanne Rhymes, her whole season was I knew, her voice is so distinctive. I knew right away.
Mm.
Um, but it's funny when they go on there, they don't even tell like their family or
Oh, really?
yeah,
It's top
they're
secret.
not allowed to talk to each other. They
I
can't.
didn't realize that.
Nobody knows who each other is, even like under the costumes. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, so that I'm looking forward to that one this coming week too.
Nice.
But all right, guys, that's about it for this week's episode of the podcast. And don't forget, next Tuesday, 1 week from today, 5:30, October 1st, we are doing our first live show from the Oxford Community Center. So please come down, check us out, get there early, come talk to us. And thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys. I think I figured out how to put my earphones on so they don't hurt my ears.